Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I am Dr. Sadia Zafar and today I will discuss about the desertification. What is desertification? As name indicated that it is related to desert, means something that is converted into a desert. And desertification is a type of a land degradation, means in which the land is degraded, in which a relatively dry land region becomes increasingly arid, typically losing its bodies of water as well as vegetation and wildlife. Here first we add the water, then vegetation and wildlife. From any ecosystem, when water reduces or water disappear, then the biodiversity directly affected, especially the wildlife and vegetation, because vegetation required water for their survival, and wildlife also depend the water bodies of that ecosystem. If water disappear, then the vegetation, wildlife and many other living organisms badly affected and becomes disappear from that region. So that area converted into a desert. We know that desert is a place in which very low biodiversity present and water is not abundantly available in that place. And desertification is a significant global ecological and environmental problem. Here in this picture we can see that in the left side there is a land that has a lot of biodiversity and vegetation and its climate is so pleasant, while on the other hand of the picture there is dry land with no vegetation and the climate is so warm and dry, each and everything is dry. So this is about the desertification, that how an ecosystem is converted into a desert. Categories of desertification: light desertification and moderate desertification. In light desertification, in this type of desertification, a very slight damage occurs in vegetation cover and soil, means it damages at low level. This damage doesn't affect the biological capacity of the environment and can be neglected, means its effects are not as harmful to the ecosystem. And moderate desertification, as name indicated, that a medium degree of damage of vegetation cover, means it is more intense as compared to light desertification. Medium degree of damage of vegetation cover occurs and formation of small sand dunes and salinization of the soil, which reduces the production by 10 to 25%. It also affects the composition of the soil, means affect the land. And the third type is severe desertification. This is the next level to the moderate desertification. In this type, spreading of weeds and unwanted shrubs in the pasture at the expense of desirable and wanted species occur, as well as increasing of the erosion activity which affects the vegetation cover and reduces the production up to 50%. As we know that many wild species or unwanted weeds or the shrubs and other such type of the vegetation that have very fast rapid growth rate and develop in very short time and become aggressive or become invasive species to that place and disturb the natural flora and fauna of that ecosystem. So it destroy the natural vegetation cover and reduces it up to 50%. And they utilize the natural resources of that ecosystem and occupy more land. And the next level is very severe desertification. In this type of desertification, the composition of active, naked, great sand dunes occurs and formation of many grooves and valleys and salinization of the soil which leads to soil degradation. It is the most serious type of the desertification. Means very severe desertification is the extreme level of desertification that destroy the vegetations and degrade the land and change its composition. What are the causes of desertification? Means what are the factors that cause the desertification? Basically, there are four main factors that cause desertification. First one is drought. Second is overgrazing. Third is over-cultivation. And fourth one is tree used for fuel and shelter. If we focused on these four major factors, then we can understand that when drought spread, it means their water disappear from that ecosystem, so biodiversity affected. And overgrazing, it causes the reduction in the vegetation, so natural vegetation reduces. And over-cultivation, due to over-cultivation, many wild biodiversity and especially the plants will be cleared from that place and replaces with the cereal crops or some other important crops. And another main cause of desertification is the deforestation. Deforestation means cutting or excessive use of the trees for different purpose, for fuel, for shelter, for construction, for making the furnitures, or for different purpose. We are cutting the trees or for making that land for construction, used for construction purpose, or for cultivation or other purpose. Drought. A long period without rainfall causes crop to die. In this picture, we can see that in the absence of the water, whole land is degraded and death of many species occur and many species become extinct from there, and even the survival of human being becomes so difficult or impossible without water, because our body is made up of 70% of water and we can't live without consuming the clean water. If water is not available in ecosystem, then any kind of the life can't possible to survive in that place. And drought is the basic and major cause to destroy overall biodiversity from an ecosystem. Due to the drought, vegetation disappeared because water is not available and they can't survive. Lack of food occurs and many have to move to find the food. Means most of the biodiversity will move from that ecosystem to another for the sake of the water or food or other gaining for other natural resources. Overgrazing occurs when plants are exposed to intensive grazing for extended period of time or without sufficient recovery period. It can be caused by either livestock in poorly managed agricultural applications or natural reserves. It can also be caused by immobile, travel restricted population of non-native or native wild animals. Too many animals grazing on the land, then that resulted in the reduction of the vegetation, means it reduces the many important plant species and that affect the biodiversity, means it affect the productivity and biodiversity of the land, and that cause the desertification or soil erosion. Then soil is not covered as vegetation provide a protecting cover to the soil and protect the soil from erosion. Due to the loss of the vegetation, then soil is exposed to the rain, wind and easily be eroded. Over-cultivation. Over-cultivation may not be a term a lot of us will have encountered before, but we are well aware of its devastating effects on our land, because the over-cultivation is the excessive use of land to the point where productivity falls due to the land degradation. When we grow many crops on the land years after years and no crop rotation, then the nutrients become less and gradually less and disappear from that soil, means that soil become nutrient free or infertile, that don't have capacity to provide the growth of any type of the crop. So land degradation occurs, and which leads to the land degradation. That is a problem that convert our lands into deserts, because there are no crop to protect. The soil is again easily eroded by the wind and rain. When no vegetation present on the soil, then soil is free or exposed and can be eroded by wind, rain, or anything. Removal of trees for human use. Mostly we remove the trees without considering the importance of the trees in that ecosystem. We only think about ourselves, means what we need in that place instead of the trees. And there are few trees in the desert, and their roots hold the soil together. Means in desert, the desert is an ecosystem in which low vegetation is present and the soil or land is degraded. And when trees are removed for different purpose, either for fuel, for shelter, or for construction, or for other purpose, or for firewood, or to build the shelters, the root die and the soil become loose, because the root system holds the soil particles together. When trees disappear, then soil become free and they lose the binding that provided by the trees root system. Yet again, this means that the soil can be easily blown or washed away, as we have discussed in earlier in last slides, that soil erosion occur, and again soil erosion occurs, then land is degraded and ecosystem affected badly. There are some causes and effect of desertification. What are the causes of desertification? Drought over long period of time, means drought spread, and the people cutting down the trees and shrubs for firewood and building materials, and herbs of animals overgrazing the grasses and shrubs, and the poor farming methods and misuse of land, means wrong policies for land use. These are the main causes that the main causes of the desertification, and their effects are: once arable land is turning into deserts, mean a good ecosystem is converted into a desert, and more difficult to produce the crop and raise animal, means the survival rate of biodiversity become very low, and less food and material for people to the survive when the vegetation or biodiversity reduces, then how it's possible that in that ecosystem that have good food or other natural resources, means all natural resources affected badly, and starvation and death, no food present, no water, then starvation and resulted in the death. People forced to rely on international aid and relief, means they depend on other for help to for their survival, and people are forced to move to another region, means migration occur. Due to migration, the whole biodiversity shifted from that ecosystem. So the desertification caused mainly by human activity, anthropogenic activity, or by climate change. Measures for prevention of desertification. We need to increase the organic matter and carbon in the soil. Deforestation, means by plantation or farm management, and managed grazing, means stop the overgrazing or overcultivation. This is all about the desertification. There are some references, and thank you so much for your attention.